Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Hello, and welcome to Champion Psychology, the show with the goal of openly talking about mental health and gaming, presented by Codename Entertainment and TakeThis.org. I'm one of your hosts, Treavor Bettis, and also with me this week is Dr. B. Mitra is out right now with an unexpected, I don't know what to... Just, she's not here right now. She might pop in later.
Mitra had an unexpected conflict.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Yeah, she might pop in later in the show, and if so, we're just going to go to a quick break and get the overlay fixed up. But until then, you're stuck with the two of us talking about why love stinks.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, Dr. B, who are you for the fine folks who may not know?
Well, I was going to lead in with, I have a beard, I have long hair, I have a vest, I am evil Matt Mercer. But I'm Dr. Raffael Boccamazzo, Dr. B for long Italian name reasons. I am a clinical psychologist in Washington State. I'm also the clinical director at the oldest and longest running mental health nonprofit in the game industry, TakeThis.org. I'm an expert on the applied use of tabletop RPGs in clinical and learning settings. I got to sit in on a dissertation proposal defense today. I am a chair member of that dissertation committee using tabletop RPGs. What's even more wild is that one of the other members is one of my former professors, and it's just she and I get to talk about, did you ever think my career was going to go in this direction when I was one of your students? And she's like, no. Nobody could have guessed this.
Oh, fun times. Speaking of fun times, it looks like there might be a problem with the code. We'll get that figured out. I don't know. I will do that while Dr. B tells us, why are we talking about this today?
Well, okay. So we were talking about this, and we're being deliberately perverse in the title because we need to just call out the elephant in the room that here, everybody on this show is in a committed long-term relationship. And so if our significant others are watching this right now, we love you.
We do.
We love you.
I can't make art hands very well, but
love is awesome. But it there's a lot of romanticized idealism that comes along with the image of long-term relationships. And a lot of people run into problems with these idealized images and expectations in long-term relationships. And given the show is coming on Valentine's Day, this seemed like a great opportunity to talk about some of those unrealistic expectations, what long-term relationships actually look like when they're healthy, and what the discrepancy is, and also the fact that Valentine's Day brings with it certain expectations and pressures, whether you're single, whether you're with someone, that is a measure of worth, and how much BS is a part of those expectations.
I mean, I feel like if there's one thing that kind of is a through line on this show is expectations suck. They usually do lead to not always fun times.
Yeah. There's So I work with a lot of teenagers and young adults, and especially a lot of especially a lot of the clients and students I've had over the years, and some of like the skills courses I've taught really focus on having a relationship as one of their long-term goals, which on its face, that is such a wonderful long-term goal to have. That, I want companionship, I want all of the benefits that come with a long-term relationship. But it turns out so many of them have this idea of a long-term relationship that is so influenced by movies and music and so forth. It's not realistic. And they have this almost like achievement unlocked girlfriend, and forgetting that there's another person involved in that, and they have wants and needs and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we want to talk about all these double-edged swords that is a part of this, and we're gonna do our best to talk about some of what Mitra expressed in our pre-production meeting. But we're going to attempt it because, especially for long-term viewers of the show and long-term listeners, that Mitra has such a both professional and personal focus on culture as an impact on how we experience the world, not only how we view it, but how we internalize things, how we experience it. That I just want to throw the caveat out there that we are not relaying our stories, and we're going to do the best to talk about some of Mitra's stuff. Oh, and you know what? Thank you, Mental Lamia, and also hi, for bringing up the idea that non-monogamous relationships can be part of this landscape as well.
Yeah.
That is such a fantastic observation to make, that for so many people, non-monogamous relationships are a valid and wonderful part of this landscape.
Yeah. I really I think at the end of the day, this isn't talking about like any one type of relationship. This is talking about the expectations of those relationships.
100%.
There are countless numbers of relationships that are 1,000% valid in every way, shape, and form. But it's really the expectation that comes along with the people going into it.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, in thinking about some of my friends and my colleagues, that there's so many lessons that those in monogamous relationships have actually learned from people in healthy non-monogamous relationships, that indicate how messed up some of our expectations of monogamy can be.
Yes.
Oh,
boy.
So I mean, where do we start with some of those messed up expectations?
Well, one of the things that you said there was like I think you said before was like the perfect romance or something like that, romantic perfection.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there is one person that is going to meet every need you have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, no. Princess Bride was a wonderful movie. It was a wonderful movie. It was a movie.
It was a movie. It was a movie about a fairy tale storybook.
Yeah, it was, there were layers to that. There were so many layers to that. But you are a complex individual, Trevor.
What? I am?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
You are a beautiful and complex human being, my friend, who will evolve and change over the course of your lifetime. And it's like your needs will change as well. And here's the thing, so will the other person if you are in a monogamous relationship. Like, both of your needs and wants and desires will be in flux over the course of your lifetime.
It's a lot to think about.
That is.
A lot of variables there.
So many variables.
Yeah.
And so whenever we have a story that talks about happily ever after, there's a reason we see the credits at that point.
Yes.
And we don't see anything that happens afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
All the complications, all the adjustments, all of the readjustments that go along with that mutual growth.
Yeah.
And the idea that one person can meet all of my needs for the rest of my life is just one unrealistic, and two, so much pressure on the other person.
Oh, so much pressure.
Have you ever been in a relationship like that where you were the object of like somebody's, they expected you to meet all of their needs?
No, because the one time something like that happened, I ran away in pure anxiety fear. Um,
Not just regular anxiety fear.
Oh yeah, no, it was just like, oh, this is a lot of pressure. I'll be bye.
Just kind of creeping your way out of there.
I was so just like, I don't know what to do here.
Well, it's too much. You didn't want that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Nobody does. That is so much anxiety because there's only two options in that case. Either meet their needs for the rest of their life in perpetuity or fail. There's no middle ground in that scenario. And we're already getting, oh God, we're already getting responses in chat.
Sorry, I closed the chat for a moment.
Well, some of the responses we're getting are absolutely great, and all that is cynical in my soul it really comes out on Valentine's Day, and we've already got a Beatles quote in there. Also, I'm a Beatles super fan, and
as is documented well through the lore of this show.
Whenever I hear "All You Need Is Love," and part of me goes, "That is business for me later on. Thank you."
See that's the funny thing. Like I do think that like the beginning of relationships can definitely have those like rom-com moments and everything.
Totally.
But again, like you made a good point. There's a reason the credits hit when they do.
Mm-hmm.
And like even if we even want to like just dissect stories, movies and stuff for a moment, like most of the time when there's sequels to movies like that, there's a problem in the relationship. It's not happily ever after. I mean, hey, I'm sorry, spoilers for Force Awakens, but like Leia and Han didn't even stick around together. Like, and then people were like, that's the sci-fi couple. and they split up. So yeah, the happily ever after thing is always weird to me when it's not in a fairy tale.
Well, and there's even you bring up Leia and Han, and we've got we're relying on romantic idealism and tropes here that he's the bad boy.
Oh, the bad boy.
The bad boy.
Hang on, I have to change the code. We have an updated code, folks.
Do we?
Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down.
We're good.
And
we
yes,
have an updated code.
This code will work. I like that. That's really good.
But you've got Leia and Han, and Han's the bad boy.
Bad boy.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love you. I know. But it turns out the bad boy continues to be the bad boy behind the scenes, and it's almost like that creates an element of instability in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like bad boy gonna do bad boy things.
Yeah, no, I do think that there's some. I mean, there's always the joke of like, oh, I'll fix them. They'll change for me.
Okay, we're gonna get I just pulled up a card maneuver. Boom.
And you see, that's the thing. That is an expectation. You're going in with the expectation that you can change them, or that they will change for you.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna get personal here. I have been on the receiving end of that. And I strongly suspect that there are a lot of ADHD and autistic folks out there who can say the same thing. That given that the way we often be in the world is different than other people expect, that there are things that we do that are, you know, part of our neurotype that aren't necessarily harmful, but are different. And we are cajoled, and we are oh my God, I just saw the new code. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me?
Our mods are great. What can I say? Thanks,
I
Martin
heart
Jordan.
the mods in a school appropriate way. Oh my God. So the you know, we think about all of the pressures that those of us with ADHD and autism, either or both, are given throughout our lives to conform to other people's expectations. And to be in a long-term committed relationship, monogamous or otherwise, where in a long-term relationship, we should be accepted as we are, right? Okay. Well, to have that and then also be coerced into saying, I accept you as you are, now be as I expect, is destructive beyond belief. I'm actually, I am, you know, to be fully transparent with this, I'm 5 years post-divorce in a relationship that was like that. And I'm still undoing a lot of the damage.
Oh, I bet.
And so, you know, the idea that I can change them is, oof. But then you also have the flip side. I won't change for anybody.
Oh, yeah, the stubbornness on the
Yeah. And there's a middle ground there, I think, that, you know, if you think, okay, so it's a weird thing. When you think about it, in any sort of interpersonal relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's society, whether it is an intimate, you know, romantic connection, to make that last, we all have to put aside a small chunk of ourselves. Because there needs to be meeting of mutual expectations. And so the idea that we will never change can be just as toxic as the idea that I will change them.
Yep. Yeah. I don't really know what to say about that one, because I've heard it before and I've just been like, that's an interesting way to have it.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's actually, so there's two terms. There's one term that I have heard from my friends in the poly and kink communities. And that is the idea of relationship anarchy.
Relationship anarchy is my new band name.
You heard it first, folks. It has been called. Actually, I wonder, that's got to be a band already.
It's got to be.
That is that is low-hanging fruit.
So what is relationship anarchy?
Well, relationship anarchy is, and you know what? If we've got any actual kink and poly experts in the chat, and you are like, no, Dr. B is full of Dr. BS right now, because I'm going to be relaying information I have gleaned from my friends who are experts. So I'm going to say I am not an expert on this. But relationship anarchy is this idea that we examine the expectations of a relationship as dictated by society, take what's useful and throw out what's not, and create a relationship for ourselves that is both meaningful and sustainable.
Interesting.
And that's irrespective of the kind of dictates of society that we would just accept without question.
Yeah. The things you've grown up on, the things you've watched,
right,
and learned, and everything.
Right, as you so definitely put it during our pre-production process, that, you know, tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
I gotta find who originally tweeted that, because I feel bad not crediting them, because this is a great one.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so absolutely good. Yeah, so you know, they talk about creating relationships, co-creating relationships, in this concept of relationship anarchy, of figuring out what's meaningful to them, and then actually, so long as it's not hurting anybody and there's consent from everybody involved,
Mm-hmm.
building out that type of relationship in a way that's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it requires constant negotiation.
Yeah, communication. I mean, yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that it needs renegotiation, it needs constant adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's not static.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's so hard as these things grow.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to hit on our notes, especially since we talked about the bad boy aspect of it, and it's annoying that these are gendered to begin with, but it's the terms that have been thrown around the world for God knows how long now. But like the good guy, the good boy, like the flip side of that, is like kindness is being boring and stuff.
Well, and so here's where I'm going to do my best to channel what Mitra talked about during our pre-production process, is that what did I write down, because it was so brilliant what she said. Mitra, y'all don't even know how brilliant Mitra is. Like,
you have an idea. If you watched the show before,
you've got it. You've got an inkling.
Yeah,
but y'all don't even know. But the idea that long-term relationships, especially as you get to know somebody in grueling, intimate detail, and I wrote this very poetic note that there's little mystery after taxes, that you as you sleep next to someone, as you brush your teeth alongside someone, there becomes very little mystery in your life. And so much of romance is based on mystery and surprises and the unexpected. And as Mitra really, really deftly pointed out, the idea of the bad boy trope is based on chaos and unpredictability and mystery. And the good guy, the guy next door, the girl next door, the person next door, whomever, is based on predictability and stability. And all relationships need a combination of both to survive.
Mm-hmm.
The mystery becomes a lot harder as time goes on. And so it's not, it's not an either or, but it's both and.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's gosh, I am really not doing her justice on this, because she was so much more articulate. This is what she specializes in. But yeah, oh, I love this from the lurking writer. Chaos turns into order, contrary to what physicists say.
I see someone calling for Sean because I see there's problems against. Sean's not. There's not the one to do that.
Wait, what?
There's something going on with the game. I see people in chat. I can see the notifications coming up. People are looking into it and working on it. Please hang tight.
Did you break the game with the codes?
I mean, it was me. I did put up that idea, so I guess it was me.
Attention, Codename Entertainment. Treavor broke the game.
Yes. Yeah. Why don't we take a quick break to remind our viewers of our disclaimer, and we'll come back and talk a little more about Love Stinks.
Yeah.
I was like, he's gonna do it. I know he's gonna do it. All right. We will be right back after this disclaimer.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
All right, we're back. As a reminder, you can put question colon and then your question into the chat. No, not you question colon, an actual word question and then the symbol colon and then your question into chat. And our awesome mods, Mars and Jordan, will grab them, put a little text doc that we'll talk about towards the end of the episode. But I'm gonna pass over to Dr. B to continue our conversation.
I'm really curious, Trevor, because I'm thinking if we're talking about relationships being harder and more different, then boy, did I just actually quote Strong Bad?
You did.
That was grammatically incorrect, but I accidentally quoted Strong Bad. That's awesome. It's more different.
That's so good. It's more different.
S and a more different S. Some spinies, some winglings. Wow. Okay.
Hopefully we got a lot of Strong Bad fans in the audience today.
That cartoon is 21 years old.
Oh, shut up and talk about the stuff.
But if we're talking about relationships being different than we expect, I'm really curious for you, Trevor. How was like your first healthy long-term relationship different than you expected it to be? Consummate, please. Consummate.
This is not like me trying to pander or anything like that. It is the relationship that I'm in right now. It was different because it felt good. I felt good about myself. And that was almost weird. The relationships that I had been in were good in their own ways, but also not great for me, self-esteem wise. And so to be with someone who was building me up, who did show confidence in me and everything like that, was completely different, because I'm the one that does that for people. I'm the one that goes around and I'm like, you've got this. Don't even let those questions pop into your head. You have this. Do not worry. And to have someone do that for me and, love me for like who I was being, but also seeing the potential of what I could be, was incredible. It was great. I mean, it's why we've been together now for insert number of years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta say, what surprised me was the idea that you could have healthy conflict.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like we don't talk about that enough. We don't see that enough in media, because healthy conflict is not good viewing. Kind of like accurate therapy is not exciting to watch. Like healthy, productive relationship conflict where where all parties have their needs met successfully is not particularly exciting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Yeah, it's not good movie material.
I'm gonna say this thing and pass it over to you, and then I have to take care of something real quick. But it was to the point that my wife and I, at the beginning of our relationship, realized that we were having these healthy conflicts, and to the point that when we would hear someone else in a new relationship be like, "Oh yeah, we've been together 6 months and haven't fought," we're like, "Oh no, oh that's gonna explode."
Well, let's drop a little research on that. Okay. So, there is a very famous researcher by the name of, oh my God, wow, good God, this is the researcher that like all students have to know, and I'm having a complete and total brain fart on this. John Gottman. Oh my God, he's local to me too.
I knew you'd get there.
Oh, he's the love doctor. And so his entire media empire and research empire is built on research with couples and seeing what leads to long-lasting relationships. And one of the things he discovered through his research is that it's not a lack of conflict that keeps relationships building and growing stronger. It's the successful resolution of conflict. You get closer to people through that successful resolution than avoidance of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say that different couples with different needs, or different thruples, or different polycules, or whatever the structure of your relationship or relationships are, you're different aspects of those dynamics are going to have different needs and maybe different levels of conflict. What his research found is that it's the way that conflict is handled. Are you overly criticizing each other? Is there defensiveness involved? Is there contempt for the other person? Is there stonewalling, like actively, not just, hey, let's take a break and chill for a sec while we can figure this out. It's, are you ignoring them as a weapon?
Yeah.
And so resolving those conflicts, that is how you get closer in the relationships, he found. So that doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Conflicts still suck.
Oh, yeah. It's not to say that, like, the conflicts weren't, bad in the moment or anything like that. But it was like someone once asked me, it's like, what is your definition of love in a relationship? And then it was always going to bed at night. Like that was like, no matter what the conflict was or anything like that, we still slept in the same bed. And we still, got it to a point that we're like, okay, we're going to go to sleep now. Or we were going to work on it until we got to the point that we could at least do that.
So you figured out what your needs were.
Yeah.
You talked about it.
Yeah.
You adjusted in an iterative process.
Yes.
And you came to some resolution that worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't fit into my rom-com stereotype, Trevor.
Well,
I'm sorry. You're clearly doing it wrong.
What's funny is when you were talking there, though, about like the resolution and stuff like that, it actually did have a TV show couple pop into my head, which was Lily and Marshall from How I Met Your Mother. I have my problems with that show as it is, but that couple, they did have this thing at one point that seemed extremely healthy. When they were getting too heated in an argument, they'd call for a pause. And this was something that they did through several seasons of the show. But then that came to a head at the last season where Marshall kept calling for the pause and never resolving the issue and trying to ignore like it wasn't there until it was like, no pause. We need to finish this. And that I really liked that they did that. Again, problems with the show aside, I really liked that they actually showed. It was like, no, they started. One of the people started to use this as an excuse, and I thought that was good. I thought that was a good thing to show folks.
Well, it's excuse me, boy. I never actually watched that show.
That's fine. You don't need to.
I for those of you who don't know, I have a moral objection to any show that has a laugh track after Frasier ended.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I believe television has evolved to the point that if your show premiered after Frasier has ended, it should not have a laugh track.
Oh boy.
But that's a really healthy example, it sounds like at first, of productive conflict.
Yeah.
That we're using a pause as a way of advancing things until it became of using the pause as a way of avoidance. And longtime listeners of the show will know we have a love of distraction on this show. We hate avoidance.
There it is. I do want to point out Lurking Writer's message there. It's not a romantic comedy. It's a romantic communication.
Oh my god.
That's so
now
good.
I kind of want to conceptualize a romantic comedy that's based on really good communication.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that there goes.
And we got the look from Cypher on that. Hi, Cypher.
I mean, that goes 99% of the conflict in all rom-coms because nobody freaking talks.
Well, I mean, that in and of itself is so much of the problem that we often get our social cues and our expectations of relationships from movies and media, and movies and media are based on conflict.
Yeah.
Based on tension, based on things going unresolved. They are incompatible. And so, actually, I'll tell you about this later, but one of my favorite TV shows, I had an episode where they completely skewed rom-com stereotypes, and it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, because the whole show was horrible. And an example of everything not to do.
Always good to have those examples in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, the lurking writer throws out Adam's Family Values. Yeah, Morticia and Gomez. Let's talk about couple goals. Good God, yeah.
Oh boy, I also just love
Like,
that movie. It's a good movie.
Hopelessly devoted.
Mm-hmm.
Mutual interests, shared worldview, values, a willingness to compromise and acquiesce to each other's needs when appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a healthy dynamic right there. My goodness.
So we're getting towards the later half of the episode. We have one question currently. Remember, you can put your questions in with question : and then your question. But what are some things you want to wrap up this episode with?
Well, two things. One is that, we've been talking about, romantic relationships this entire show. And one, romantic relationships, successful ones, have a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't see in media. And so if they involve reciprocal needs being met. And if you feel like your needs are not being met in whatever romantic relationships you have going on, well, if that's a chronic thing, that's where couples therapists come in. And so no shame in asking for help there. All right. Two, what we haven't said yet is how romantic connections are not a measure of your worth.
Yeah.
And 100%. I think
100%.
there's a lot of people who, especially on a day like today, that have internalized this idea that they are somehow a failure if they don't have a romantic connection or someone to share it with. There are so many people out there who find fulfillment and meaning and happiness not being with other people. And that's okay. You do you, boo.
100%. Okay, let's check in with let's see. We have a question from Lurking Writer. And says, not sure how relevant it is to today's subject, but question, could you speak on the backfire effect? The idea that core beliefs being challenged causes our brains to reject the thing that causes the challenge. Parentheses, Dr. B's words about being stubborn, not changing, brought this to mind, and I wondered if it could be a factor in that mindset.
I mean, what's our favorite 2-word answer on this show?
It depends.
It depends. I kind of want to go full Jean Ralphio on that one.
It depends.
It depends. Because I'm the worst.
There it is. Perfect. Oh boy.
Well, I mean, so there's Lurking Writer, there's a lot of things to consider in terms of when thinking about people, willingness to change behaviors for things. And I don't know it as, I think you called it the rejection effect or the rebound
backfire effect.
The backfire effect. I don't know that term, but I do know what's called response polarization. where if someone has their beliefs challenged too hard, too directly,
Yeah.
and especially if they're surrounded by people of similar beliefs, they retreat even further into those beliefs.
Yeah.
Or they can do that. I think politics are a great example of that for a lot of folks. But I think one of the things that I'll just speak for myself that I've had to learn over the years of being in now I'm in an extremely happy romantic relationship. I can't believe how fulfilling it is. It's also different than I expected. And there are parts of me that sometimes I choose to, personal wants and personal needs, especially if they're low level, I'll put those aside. There's actually a really great book called The Wheel of Consent.
Oh.
And the author, there's one section that broke my little Catholic brain. Okay.
Okay.
One section that absolutely broke my little Catholic brain, that she talks about things that we want to do and things we are willing to do. And it made me realize in reading this that so much of what I did in relationships to that point was everything I was willing to do, and what I was willing to do was just about anything to maintain the relationship. And guess what? That ain't healthy. So, and that, learning what I was willing to change about myself versus what I wanted to get was a really hard journey to start down. I'm still traveling down that journey in a lot of respects. But deciding, where are my hard lines? These are things I will not change for anybody because they're too high priority for me. And here are the areas of my life that are negotiable. And having a very honest conversation with myself was an important part of that. Am I going to be with someone who is going to require me to run my business from an extremely profit-driven standpoint? Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work because I feel guilty. I just took on my first employee in my private practice, and I can't in good conscience make a ton of money off of their labor. They are a friend and a colleague, and they're putting in a ton of effort. I want to reward them as much as I can. If I was with someone who expected me to profit excessively simply because I'm the business owner, it's not going to work. If we're talking about someone who's asking me to be more diligent about putting the dishes away, I'm going to try. Knowing that we both have ADHD, I'm going to try. But, so being willing to change for someone in a romantic relationship is not this binary construct. Breaking away from an either or binary mentality, at least for me, has been a tremendous advantage in making relationships work.
Well, I think that's actually a good place to wrap things up.
There was one more question. Trevor, there was one more
you
question.
Got one more question? I didn't see.
Yeah, from Lurking Writer again. There was one more question.
There was? What did I miss?
There was. I saw it. And it was a question that if love stinks, what scent do we choose to mask it or clear it up with? So, Trevor, what scent do you clear it up with?
I don't know. Old Spice? I don't know if there was in my drawer at the time. What are you talking about?
Well, see, personally, I want to go with something that has a sandalwood vibe because I think
sandalwood. That's the scent that I got right now.
See, that's beautiful. We're on the same page here. Something woodsy there and subtle, but sandalwood has some almost floral notes. You know, my favorite shaving soap has a vibe. It has a combination of sandalwood, coffee, Russian leather, and cedar.
I've never been so confused at a show that I host.
Mitra brings brilliance and stability to this show. Mitra keeps me in check.
Dr. B, where can people find you if they would like to do so on the interwebs?
They can find me in the realm of chaos.
Yeah, he's there constantly. His first lieutenant is Chickless Cage.
Chickless Cage will be getting a friend eventually. John Chick is going to be hidden somewhere around here.
Michael Chickless is still missing.
But you can find me on all the social medias at the Dr. B, TheEDoctorB as in boy. But more importantly, make sure to follow TakeThis.org on all the social medias. You can stay up to date on all the stuff we're doing. We have some absolutely fantastic new free mental health resources for streamers that was co-created by Dr. Kelly Dunlap and myself. The visual stuff that you see on the screen is almost entirely her. But we've got some fun videos that are being edited right now. So yeah, follow Take This for all the cool mental health free resources that we can get out to you.
Yeah. I do want to note, Cypher's here. We did grab your question. We'll put that in with the season finale.
Oh
Q&A.
yeah, no, that's a very important question.
Really, really good one.
Yeah, we need to come back to that question.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
we'll
100%
in there. But until then, you can find me on Twitter at the Treavor. There is an A hiding in there. Thank you so much to Mars and Jordan for doing an absolutely stellar job of modding today, handling so many fires at once. Y'all are the best. And thank you to Codename Entertainment. Take This for giving us an opportunity to have these discussions. Yeah, the schedule is once again the same. Things may change soon. Keep an eye out. But until that happens, I think, yeah, that is a good place to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. And until next week, take care of yourself.
Bye, everyone.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.